Okay, we are back, and it feels really good to be back again with you guys on the screen and whoever joined us on the other end of YouTube. And we continue our discussion in this healing talk about the ancient teachings that have been lost to the masses and are being brought back at this bridge time. And the next item on the list is, and hopefully I find it real quick, to know and practice our sacred alteration of our past and future. This is some heavy ancient teaching stuff. We're doing a deep dive today. And just so you know, the list of these teachings is in this book, The Weavings, Dawn of a New World, which you can get on Amazon, but you can also get the first 3 chapters of the book for free. And the link for that is down in the description. And so, hi, my name is Helmut, and I'm here again with our friend Dolores. Hi, beautiful people. And of course, Kay Cadell Whitaker, the author of The Reluctant Shaman, Sacred Link, and as you have just seen, the Weaving book. And before we get into it, please like, subscribe, comment, share, turn notifications on, anything you can do to help the channel. We greatly appreciate it. And I think, and if you have questions, put those in the comments too, because we might do a talk about it if it's a really juicy question. All right, we're ready to know and practice our sacred alteration of our past and future. Okay.
Okay. This is the only place in this book that I specifically talk about these ceremonies and these practices, these concepts. But they are a really important part of the advanced teachings of Katasi. And that's coming from both sides, the pre-flood Egyptian traditions, as well as the pre-flood Peruvian traditions from the Hedekas. This is the concept that you can effectively change your past. And you can change your future. You can pick your future. If you realize that what you've been doing through your life and the recent times that have made this momentum that's going to lead you straight down this one path, that you don't like the idea of the results of that path at all, and you want to change that, well, that's a really easy thing to do. And it's the concepts of this start with the field, the great field that we are, and that everything is, and the whole universe is. The field is this space between everything. It's between us and all the other objects. And it's between all the stars and the planets. It's the big black space out there in space. It's the space that's between your molecules and your atoms and your subatomic particles. And if you go even smaller than that, which science has, quantum physics has definitely, you get down to what quantum physics is talking about as the smallest of the smallest measurable things. And this is, what's the word? It's just passed out of my head. Planck. It's the Planck, named after the guy who discovered it, Planck. And this is what fills this space. We don't really have empty space. We like to think of it as empty space when we're looking at it from our material perspective and looking at material things. And there seems to be all this space between all the material things and between us and the next planet or the sun and between the galaxies and everything, all this space. But it's not empty. It is absolutely jam packed full from for eternity, for as long as everything is, as far as everything stretches out to be. It is um, it is endless. It's absolutely endless and countless, because the number of planks, which are really, 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 really small, because they're way smaller than subatomic particles. And this is part of our space, or if we want to look at it from a material point of view, this is subspace. That space out there is very full of stuff. That's what we also call subspace. They're the same thing. And these little planks are little teeny bits of swirling, spinning, swirling energy. They're spinning like it's a big spiral, like a whirlwind, like, and they're pure energy. They never run out of energy. What they are and what the space is between them and the next little plank is pure energy, which feeds everything. And these little plank energy spinners have information with them, and they don't exist apart. And this energy is what we have commonly called through time, through the millennia, as the Akashic field, or the Akashic records, or the Akashic library. This information that's sitting with these little plank energies, this is the total history of everything from everywhere, forever into the past and forever into the possibilities. It's going to go forever into the future. Or if you want to look at it from a different perspective, it's already in the future, making the future and all its possibilities. So when we want to change the past, the actual actions that your family did, say, when you were a kid, maybe you had a parent or two that was um, harsh, mean, abusive, too strict. Uh, Maybe they were an addict, some kind of substance or alcohol. Alcohol seems to be a real favorite. Uh, and that just throws everything off in the family and the relationships, and it just makes everything bad and worse. And how you were treated was probably not good, because under those kinds of conditions, under the addiction, under some kind of mental illness, as some kind of real angry, cruel person in your life, that the influences of that are could be really nasty, especially if you're just a little kid. They really traumatize you. They impact you heavily. That action is not changed. It's still recorded in history, and it will probably still be recorded in your memory if you go look for it. But what we want to do when we change the past, or if we decide to change the future, these are two different situations, two different ceremonies with two different techniques. So if we go into our past to change the past, we can change how it affects us. I can't go into all the details in this, the parameters of this um, show, because we'd be here all day, maybe a week or two. The the nature of the teachings, both the Egyptian and the Peruvian, is that one lesson builds on top of the other lesson. And then the next lesson has to build on the top of those two, and the next on those three. So they all start becoming one whole teaching that's holding itself together, making sense, holding itself up. Now, when we want to change something in the past, we have to change our perception of it. And we have to change our perception of the people involved in that incident, if there were people, or if it's something like just a building started to fall apart and it fell on you, not a good thing, trauma. You won't, you want to get out of that. That it could create all kinds of trauma that go into many different directions in your life, psychologically, as well as physically, your physical health. So you want to change those effects. And in that ceremony, we do that process that can change the effects, change how you think of the past, how the past has made you you today. You want to change all of that and have that be stable in your life so that you can feel secure, you can feel confidence, that you're living with confidence and safety and health, and that you are a smart human, that maybe you have not used those parts of yourself most of your life because of the trauma. But now everything is just, it's like doors have been opened. All this stuff that you hid away when you were traumatized is open and free to you and part of you, and you own it and feel it and live it, especially the confidence part. We, in our modern culture, we underestimate what confidence does for us. It is huge. It is huge what it does for us physically, mentally, emotionally, and especially spiritually. It affects how we conduct ourselves, how we respond to everything. And I mean everything. So, in these ceremonies, it can be repeated as many times as you want to repeat that, uh, and work on different aspects of your history. You can do that, and as we do it, things start becoming really different. You become different. Your response to life and things around you, and your interest in things becomes different. It's refreshed. It's renewed. You have passion for life and your aliveness, and all these different kind of projects or work, or maybe it's something about your job. Maybe you're in a job, you doing something that you hate. Um, you really notice that, and notice how you could get out of that, how to change your work, your whole job, that whole part of your life. And it's easy and it just flows. And with the future, how we want to create our future, as the Hedekas of Peru used to say, you have to dream the dream of your future in the way that you want it. If we want certain kinds of things to appear in our personal future, we need to dream that dream. We need to think what are the details of this dream? What do I want that to look like? And what do I want to what do I want it to feel like? That's the most important piece. What do I want it to feel like? So we put all those things together, and we thank the field. We thank all of our spirit helpers and uh, everything that is divine and sacred to us. We thank ourselves, and what we are thanking them for is this picture and the feeling of the future. We live it in the moment for a minute. We feel it, we live it, we know it, we honor it, we give thanks of it, and then we can move back into our now space. But when we do that, we are informing the little spinning energy with the information all over inside it and around it and everything. And we're putting that picture and that feeling of the future in that plank. And when we do the ceremonies for the past, we're making new pictures with the feelings in the plank, in the many, 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 many planks. And so, and that stays there forever. It's a picture and a feeling, something they felt that you lived through, where whether it's behind you or ahead of you, and you make the difference by how you feel. The reason this teachings are held to the advanced levels is because people need the first teachings underneath. They need to realize who they are, what their true whole eternal self is, which we call our song. We have to know what that is, where we've been. We've had to have time to experience our own song, our own beingness, how ageless and eternal it is, and has been around for forever, ever, ever. It's done so many different things and so many different lifetimes at so many different scales. You could be working uh, on a galactic scale of what you want to experience as a lifetime, or as something very, very small, and being a little bug, being a plant, you know, being a lion or a tiger, an eagle, fly around, spending your life flying around, looking at everything. We've lived on other planets. We've lived in other kinds of places. And you start to remember that. That's what knowing your song is. You start to remember who you are, what you are, where you have been for all this time, and what's guiding you in this lifetime. What's your purpose in this lifetime? Like, that's what that's all about. And all that kind of information needs to be there in place and secure and understood, so that when we're doing these ceremonies to change our past, change the future, we have all the tools of the ancients to back it all up, to make the ceremonies happen. So those things are they're open to you. And we hear these days talking about uh, other timelines, parallel timelines. Well, the ancients talk about parallel timelines too. And they say, very similar to what quantum physics is suggesting, at least some of it is, some of those scientists are. And that is that parallel life, that's you, but things are different. You made different choices along the way. Some things are similar and some things are different. Some things are really, really different. And you can explore that with these ceremonies. And you could even discover how you've been on different timelines, even in this lifetime, how you've switched timelines because of your choices of what you learned or what you felt or what you got traumatized into. So that's what that is all about. That's what that means. Sacred alteration. Sacred alteration. It's not done lightly. And it has to be well thought out. Sacred alteration, past and future. Okay, what say you all, you three?
That's beautiful. Thank you, Kay.
I'm when I read that list, when you first put it in the book, I kind of skipped over that part, and then I've reread it and reread it, but that was the other bullet points, after studying with you so much, have made easy sense to me. And that one was one of the ones I had the most questions on, alterations, and the fact that and so I love this talk. I asked you the question, a few weeks ago, and I heard, the similar information. And so that, I mean, significant part of our studies is tools. It's just like, it's not just learning who we are and what we are. Sorry, someone woke up. But the tools to creating the future that we want, and more importantly, creating the present we want. And I love the fact that these changes are so possible, and I've experienced them being possible. But I love the fact that in this book and how you've written it, you've also talked about them being sacred. I love that. Laura P.
Laura P. I think how many times have I played with time frivolously, not consciously creating. And that's one of the things with Gatasi and the higher studies is we're learning to consciously create. And I can give a little example of how consciously creating can change your future too, not just your past. But I had an experience where I witnessed a head-on collision, and that experience left me having these images that were going over and over and over in my mind, and I just couldn't sleep, and it just went on for a really long time. And I'm finally like, where am I putting my attention, and what am I creating here? And so I walked. The images were already there at 2 a.m. in the morning, so I walked through it with so much love and let go of the no-nos, which is, the blind beliefs and the judgments and everything. And it totally stopped. So in doing some of those things that we've been taught, it changed the past, and it also changed my future, because I was no longer going over that over and over and over. It so we're learning how to deal and create with the mechanics of consciousness and the mechanics of creating. It's like, and it seems funny to say it that way, but we're learning how to create with clarity and focus, as opposed to just, because we're going to create no matter what, as opposed to just randomly doing it, frivolously doing it. Anyway, yeah, you can change your whole future by what you're focusing on, in your perspective. And that's just a subtle thing, let alone the whole planet, which is weaving, right? Yeah. I think of all the times I was frivolous with my time and my attention and my consciousness. Well, the teachings teach you to have more clarity and more focus and more awareness about what you are creating. And the key word there is sacred. Sacred. And I think that's the difference between being asleep and starting to wake up, is that you realize where you're putting your attention and your focus is sacred, and it makes a difference. Wonderful teaching, Kay. I'm so glad I'm along for this journey.
We see a lot of people get stuck in the past events. I mean, just really frozen in moving forward because of past events. And, and having the understanding that it can be changed is huge. I mean, what Laura is saying is very significant, that we're constantly, Kay, if you follow any of Kay's former talks, you'll hear her saying, we are constantly manifesting and we choose what we're doing. And that stuck in the past is really etching into your present. And it is, like Laura said, creating a future too by being stuck in there. And that's what I just love. Katasi is all these tools. And I love that you brought up, the foundation, like this is these, because the further I've gone into these ancient studies, you were definitely coming out quantum physics. It was like, but I'm a person who failed sciences. I had to move over to computer science to get out of regular, sciences, because I was failing so bad. And but the way these are taught, Kay's, you're an amazing teacher, because you feel like it's these fundamentals that have been passed along to you, and you've been passing along to us, like the stair stepping of these teachings, of knowing who you are, what you are first, learning about your mask, opening up to life energy. Then we just took new students on Monday through the forgiveness ceremony. That's changing some of their presence, letting go, being able to access more energy. And as you're accessing this more energy by doing the earth fire serpent, cleaning up those chakras, these step by step, you are that life energy, you're getting more and more control over manifesting the things you want in life. And then, as Kay's saying, you go further, she's teaching you how to rewrite your past, and create, and just have more access and more tools. That's Katasi. It's just these tools to becoming human, and the potential humans that we've been told aren't possible, are told that don't exist, and Kay's leading us along to saying, no, they really do exist. And those key teachings in the weaving book she's put out, they're just beautiful. And this is one more, that altering your past and your future is totally possible, and it's a sacred act, and that's part of these teachings. It's so exciting to be here, Kay. Thank you.
Mm.
Can I say one more thing? It's just, I just want to reiterate it's the steps at which Kay teaches us. And it teaches us that there is no idle thought, and that each thought creates a world of experience. And she starts at the very beginning of the foundation of our song. And then she works us all the way to the point where you can actually alter sacredly past and the future. Change your life. Seriously. Wow. Yeah, I just wanted to share that, because each thought that we have creates a world of experience. And we can choose. What do you want to experience? What do you want to create? We're unlimited, seriously. Thank you, Kay. Wonderful sharing, Laura.
My spirit guides often use the Wizard of Oz as metaphors for me. And during the weavings, I woke up with an old America song about it called The Tin Man. And the chorus, one of the choruses and it says, Oz didn't give the Tin Man something he didn't already have. He already had a heart. I mean, so much of Wizard of Oz is about these characters already having everything they needed. It was the journey that woke up them to the fact that it was there all along. Glinda the Good Witch says to Dorothy, her ruby red slippers were there. She could go home at any time. I feel like Case tells us that all the time. It's just like, you got to stop believing who you are and what you're capable of. And as soon as you stop, it's like, here are all these tools that are here with you all along. You're it. Everything in there, you're it. You can do this. You got it, as my 2-year-old likes to say. You got it. And that's this Katasi. It's just the path to Oz. Thanks, Kay.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that Laura just said, that each thought creates a new experience. That's like at the heart of it all. Like, where is your attention? But one of the things I wanted to mention today is, the more we do these talks, the more I work on tuning into the thought forms that Kay is describing when she talks. And the beauty of experiencing that and then hearing Kay talk about it is so enormous, almost overwhelming at times. And that is one of the big things I love about our talks, and especially your talks, Kay, that beauty, this kind of beauty, is something that is sorely missing in the world. I really need a lot more of that, and the knowingness of that, and the ability to experience it. Of course, along with our ability to be grateful and forgive and love and peace and all these things. But this kind of beauty, I want to do these talks forever. Thank you, Kay, and thank you guys.
There's beauty everywhere. Incredible beauty inside ourselves. Our songs are utterly, incredibly beautiful. Everybody's song is. And the ancients say that everything has a song, everything's alive, everything's conscious, and everything is thinking and feeling. And it's everything has beauty and everything experiences beauty. And we've lost what real beauty is, the depths that beauty can be, can exist as. And these ceremonies of changing something that was really hard and harsh for you growing up. And I know the first thing that I did when we were taught the ceremony, we go through the whole teaching, then we do the ceremony, and we pick one thing at a time, one thing that you want to change. You can only change one thing at a time. And my family's pretty dysfunctional. It's a lot of alcoholism and a lot of anger, a lot of frustration. And my father just seemed to get more frustrated, more angry, more grouchy every year. And for some reason, even when I was a little kid, I remember when I was super tiny, he just adored me and would pick me up and play and swing me around and kiss me, and there was no grouchy. But when it started to change into grouchier behavior and I was getting older, I just seemed to have a super talent for poking the grouchiness. I didn't mean to. I realized that that's potentially a dangerous thing to do. You don't want to go there. But it just seemed who I was, what I was, the way I talked, the way I'd ask a question or ask for a favor, or be talking about something with a lot of excitement, and he'd just be all grouchy. And that was going in, even as an adult. It was still the same thing. And I'd go to visit him and his new wife, and loved her. She's great. And we'd be really happy to see each other. And I could see and feel that love there and the sweetness. And just a few minutes being there together, he has had no clue how to relate to me. None. And he'd get grouchier, grouchier, grouchier all over again. It would just be the same old story. So that was the thing that I picked, was to let's change this interaction. This has got to go. We just can't keep doing this. It's just such a bummer. It's just a huge, huge bummer. It really hurt bad. So that's what I did. I picked changing that relationship, and I pictured the way I would have my dream history, my dream childhood to be, especially with him, and just our relationship. And I was in the ceremony a long time. I think I was the longest one doing the ceremony, and everybody else had to wait for me to finish. Which is okay. I probably had him waiting for quite a while, working on that and doing that ceremony. But it was a few weeks later, and maybe a month later, but it was time to go to Dad's again. Everybody's going. It was like a Thanksgiving dinner or something, which we did every year all together. And he would cook this enormous, exquisite feast for everybody. And he really loved that kind of big family dinner, and the exquisiteness of of the food tasting so super and all that stuff. And his behavior towards me was completely different. It was just night and day different. He never got grouchy. He never got mad. He just continuously was happy to see me and happy for me to ask to, you know, pass the turkey dressing, please. Because it's just things like that. Must have been the way I said it or something when I was little. He'd be grouchy because and make him angry. But just all these different little bitty things that make your day and make the relationship. It was just so beautiful. And it was either that same night or was the next night because we'd be there for a few days. And it was just the two of us in his little living room. And it was in an old Victorian house. You would have called that a parlor. And there was a fire in the fireplace, and his chair was close to the fire, and he was in his chair with a stool and his little blanket, um, and just enjoying, uh, you know, sipping on some beverage or something, and talking. And his big thing was to study astrophysics. He's a pretty smart guy. He never got to be able to do that, to go study those things because he didn't have that kind of money. But he studied them on his own, whatever he could get his hands on. And when they started having journals and magazines, and then he would order each one uh, of all these different magazines, study this stuff, and write some of these scientists sometimes, and have some dialogue. And that was his thing, his big. You could pro- People would probably say that's a hobby, but for him that was the center of his life. And so he was starting out talking about how he disagreed with the Big Bang, and he didn't see that it could be possible, that it was a stupid story, and this was why. And he believed in more of a cyclic, really big, long cyclic things of things coming into being and flourishing and then going uh, out of being, less, and maybe even disappearing entirely and then coming back into being. And the way he described it, I said, Dad, um, that's the story of the Sanskrit story, Hindu, India. That's Brahma. He's the big dude. He's he's the big number one creator of the universe, Brahma, and he goes in and out of being. He's awake, and then he goes to sleep, and he sleeps for a while, and then he's awake, and the world comes into being when he's awake. When he goes to sleep, everything is passing out of existence, and it describes everything on every scale. And he was absolutely astounded. And instead of getting mad at me or grouchy or finding some fault with what I was saying, we had the first truly beautiful sharing back and forth discussion of what is his big thing in life, his big study, his love, and mine. He knew I was studying some weird cultish thing, but he had no idea what it was or what it was about or anything, because he would never listen. But he listened. After that, he listened, and then he asked about other cultures that I knew, and what was their cosmology, and how did they think the world began, and so I got to talk to him about Black Isis and that particular Egyptian concept of creation, which is taught in the really ancient temples. And he loved it so much. And I didn't know whether to cry or to laugh. I was just so delighted. I didn't want him to want to go to sleep. I wanted to stay up all night and talk with him. And it was so much fun, and he was so excited with what I was saying, and he was excited with what he was saying. He was excited that I was excited about what he said, and it was beautiful. The whole thing changed, and it was like that till the day he died. And thank you, sacred ceremony. I have other experiences very similar to that as well. That particular one, that really did it.
Okay, if you're interested to possibly stepping into the ceremonies, check out our website. Links are below. And on the website, you can get in touch with us if you want to or need to. And we have a question, which I think we should address from Meredith.
Yeah.
Does a tiny bit of sacred alteration of the past happen with the forgiveness ceremony?
In a way, it does. But what in the forgiveness ceremony, we are in the present time, and we're working on the chords, the energy streams that go between us and somebody else, or us in a place, or us in an animal, or us in a piece of history. And we're going through the chords, going through our chakras, finding these chords. You find beautiful ones and healthy ones, and then you find one that's all black and yucky and creepy looking and feeling, and we follow the cord to the end, and who's on the other end? That's who you work on first. You have to have forgiveness. And if you're going to expand your consciousness, if you're going to get out of these bad cycles that you get into, and these depressions and this guilt and this fear, anger, whatever it is, it's on the end of that cord. That cord is carrying bad, nasty energy between you and whatever's at the other end. And you follow the steps, the protocol of the forgiveness, and you have to genuinely feel the forgiveness and the love, and forgive, let it go to whatever's on the other end. And they usually do it back. It's on a spiritual, a psychic level, an energetic level, and it's the chords, and it's the energy on the chords, and it's the quality of that energy, quality of what that history is that's made that energy. So you change the energy to good, you're changing a bit of that past as well, because otherwise you couldn't forgive, and they couldn't forgive you. So you forgive them, and you ask them to forgive you. And you do that with each chord. That's the forgiveness ceremony, or at least the major parts of it. And sometimes you realize that once you've forgiven them, you feel really big love, and you feel gratefulness. And you need to express that you are grateful to them for forgiving you, for accepting forgiveness, um, for participating in this exchange, changing this chord, and for being who they are today at this moment, that this could happen. So, in a way, it's touching things that have happened in the past, and the darkness that has been created. And not very often we've been the one that created it. Uh, Sometimes it's involving the nastiness from somebody on the other end, but we let that in. We let that happen. We let that affect us and change us in a nasty way. And that's why the cord is there being all nasty looking and existing in its nasty state and still sending nasty energy back and forth. And so the forgiveness ceremony, it's about changing all of that. And it takes a number of repetitions of the forgiveness ceremony to really deeply be able to forgive. Sometimes some injury was bad enough in some ways that we're only able to partially forgive them. We'll get about halfway done with it. That's better than nothing. That's that's a good start, because you could go with the next ceremony that you do, next forgiveness ceremony, and you're going to find that chord again, and spirits are going to say, let's work on this. Let's get this one clean. Let's sweeten this all up. And so you try again and you do it again. And the more that you learn about your song and the song of the other or others that are on the ends of these chords, and the more you learn about life itself and what it really is, what aliveness is, what our connectedness is, what this field to field is something we talk about in the book a lot, talk about in all the teachings. We're connected to everything. We have a field, they have a field, we're connected. And it goes from the Planck scale to the universal scale. We're connected and reconnected and more connected. And we don't realize it. In our modern culture, we're taught that we're not connected, but we are. And these ceremonies, they they really are an action of changing these connections and realizing just how connected we are. We're connected to every plank, every one of those little spinning energy things, super, super small. They're all connected together, and we're connected to all of them. And we're connected to everything and everybody else. And that's what these changing ceremonies, these forgiveness ceremonies, changing past and history, that's what they're all about. You're changing your relationship to each other. Everything's in relationship. And we talk about that. That's in the book. The teachings talk about that endlessly in all kinds of different ways. And everything that we learn and experience and do ceremonies around, they're teaching you the depths of this. At first, the outside, the it's like the front page. You're experiencing the first little bit of all these things, and it seems really big, and you've never even dreamt of anything like that before, and it's so beautiful and so astounding. But then there's another layer that's deeper and bigger, and another and another and another layer and another layer and another layer, and it's endless. And the learning and the experiencing is endless. And that's what the ancients knew. That's what we've lost. That's what we work for. Getting it all back and spreading it out so everybody knows this information. Everybody knows what the ancients knew and what the star people taught them. So Last words.
This is the book that Kay is talking about, where you can find all that. You can get the first 3 chapters for free in the link below in the description. And I believe there's also a link to where you can get it on Amazon. Any other thoughts? Beautiful again.
Yeah. Claim the sacred. Find out what is sacred. Claim it. Claim it again. We've lost it for so long.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Thank you for those joining us live. If you're watching this later, I'm recording. Thanks for taking the time to join us that way. And beautiful. We'll see you next week. Continuing the journey. Love you.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Love you bunches. Bunches and bunches and bunches. Have beautiful days.